Destruction in uptown Charlotte. Stores and car windows shattered.
Police respond with tear gas and flash grenades.
Yes, we came down here to protest, but we can't tear up downtown. That's not going to solve anything.
The question tonight, what happens now?
We don't see a need to definitively shut the city down at a specific hour because we can't anticipate.
At the appropriate time, you will find out a lot more about who Mr. Scott was.
Images you've seen from across the country, now here at home in our state's largest city. We're live after a second day of chaos in uptown Charlotte.
We are going to get to that in just a moment, but we start with some breaking news.
Yes, WFNY News 2's Chad Silver in our studio right now with more information on the officer-involved shooting in Tulsa. Chad. Well, now at 5, we're here on the streets in uptown Charlotte. Things are much calmer compared to what we saw last night. We had hundreds of people down here demonstrating at first, and then it devolved into full-out rioting, people looting and damaging buildings, including the Hilton Garden Inn behind us.
44 people were arrested despite all the destruction, and you see the cleanup behind us. No curfew will be in place for tonight. The Charlotte police chief says it's not necessary, not yet. He says there are enough resources in place. The National Guard is here, state police are here, and remember, there is a state of emergency in effect right now in Charlotte.
So the whole reason why we're here, we want to take you closer to what happened here. So what's happening right now at this Garden Inn, Hilton Garden Inn, is boarding of broken windows. You see that door there? You can see where people had thrown projectiles, perhaps bricks at the door. It didn't get all the way through, but several windows are full out broken. Boards go all the way around this building, and they're not just boarding up windows that are broken, they're also boarding up windows in case there are more riots tonight. So there is this recovery effort happening right here, and then inside we've got management making preparations just in case there are more problems. So yes, this is a town on edge, and Julie, we just talked to someone who lives in a building right up the road here who says this is a place where we usually see a lot more traffic after 5 o'clock, people getting off work, but it is what he calls a ghost town compared to what they usually see right now.
Absolutely.
Now, the chief says he stands behind the officer. He believes that there was a gun in Scott's hand. He is not going to release that video to the public. He called that the masses, but again, he agreed to allow the family to see that video.
Meantime, Governor
Pat McCrory, of course, 14 years the mayor of Charlotte, and he even acknowledged that he has a heartstring connected to this city. He cares very much about what's happening here. The NAACP also had a news conference today. They were speaking very loudly and sternly about how they want all of the facts surrounding the death of Mr. Scott, and they went back to the video. They want it released immediately to the public. They also acknowledged there are concerns they have about the protesters that then turned violent. We do want to show you this again. Police confirm a witness photo taken moments after the shooting shows a gun at Keith Lamont Scott's feet. Now, family and friends still say Scott did not have a gun. They say he had a book in his hands. And people have been here all day in the aftermath doing their best to button things down and clean up. They haven't gotten rid of all the damage and replaced all the broken windows, but they're doing their best. Here's video of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is off of MLK Jr. Boulevard where we are right now. And this is where protesters, or should we say rioters, tried to break in last night. And people not only got into the store, broke the windows, but they were looting, taking some of the memorabilia, some of the souvenirs, the team gear out of that store.
Let's continue our coverage with WFNY News 2's Hope Ford.
And Hope, you've been here now 24 hours or so. Tell us what you're seeing near you. There was talk earlier about discussions happening about, do you change the location of the Panthers game versus the Vikings this weekend? The NFL and the Panthers, though, say they are determined to keep things as normal as possible for the game this weekend at Bank of America Stadium. And things here, calm, quiet, and you got to believe that if it stays this way, perhaps things can go back to normal. But if we see a repeat of what we saw last night and the night before, discussions will probably resume about what to do this weekend. And meanwhile, you see officers standing in line protected by riot gear. Just how does that protect them? And why is it that tear gas affects some people more than others?
WFNY News 2's Maddie Gardner is digging deeper to answer both those questions.
All right, do want to go back to Greensboro now. Grant Gilmore doing a great job staying on top of the weather. Grant.
It's fall.
Yeah, guys, good work down there.
They just boarded up the front door to this Hilton Garden Inn. So there was plenty of damage here. The door had damage. Windows had been blown out because people had been throwing things through the window last night. And as a precaution, they're saying we don't want anyone getting in here at all. So that's where you would normally go to the lobby and take care of your business when you check in on your own vacation. And here they are boarding up yet more windows. Julie counted 17 windows boarded up when we arrived, and now they've added a few more. And some of this is precautionary. They don't want people to have access or have the ability to throw something else through the window because they believe it might happen again. I'm sure no one's hoping that it will happen again, but they don't want to take any chances. We're staying here in Uptown Charlotte for another hour. Please stay with us as we give you the latest information on the unrest in Charlotte. It was chaos in Charlotte last night. Uptown Charlotte was the epicenter of unrest. A lot of people didn't like what they were hearing and seeing yesterday as a result of the shooting of Keith Lamont Scott. And we're here live showing you kind of the follow-up in the aftermath of all of that anger.
Right, so let me show you what's going on.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a bustling part of town on a Thursday after work is let out and people are heading home, but that is not happening. A lot of businesses, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Duke Energy among them, telling their employees, if you can, stay home today, work from home.
Very wise.
Well, we do know the National Guard is in Charlotte as a result of the state of emergency declared by the governor. The governor at first sent in the State Highway Patrol, and then after last night's violence, he made that declaration of a state of emergency and deployed the Guard here. Here in North Carolina, there are nearly 12,000 citizen soldiers and airmen living in every county across the state. They're trained in police and security tactics. When the National Guard is activated by a governor, they respond within that state's jurisdiction and are under the governor's command. The last time the Guard was activated in our state was just in January. The governor had 100 guardsmen helping during the power outages from that winter storm we had. I think it's safe to say that right now it's an eerie quiet here in Charlotte. You can feel there's some relief, but you can also feel there is some discomfort with the fact that we're going to be getting into the night hours here soon and nobody wants to see more violence. All right, those were not protests late last night. Those were riots. We're going to stay here and continue to be here live until 6:30 and always stay up to date on WFNYnews2.com. Tonight at 6, we are live in Uptown Charlotte, where the hope is we don't have any repeats of what we've seen the last couple of nights when there was rioting, people injured, and one person killed last night. Charlotte recovering today from a second night of rioting after the shooting death of a black man at the hands of a black police officer. There is still a state of emergency here in Charlotte because of a declaration from Governor Pat McCrory, and he did that following the riots on last night. So this unrest follows, again, the deadly police shooting involving 43-year-old Keith Lamont Scott. Police say Scott had a gun, but witnesses have been saying he was holding a book. Police sources confirmed to our sister station in Charlotte a witness photo taken moments after Scott's shooting shows a gun at his feet. Police say Scott was an imminent threat to the officers, while his family says the only threat was, quote, the color of his skin. At a news conference today, the police chief says he planned to show video of that officer-involved shooting to Smith's family today, but he says the video will not be immediately released to the public. Chief Kirkputney says the video does not definitively show that Scott was pointing the gun at anyone. And the chief is saying it's simply because this is an open investigation. He doesn't want the release of the video to impact that investigation. Governor Pat McCrory says he also expects less chaos tonight because the National Guard and state troopers are helping Charlotte police. And hope some places simply ransacked last night. Well, images from the second night of violent protests in Uptown Charlotte exploded on social media last night. Here are some of the scenes from an overnight protest which at times turned violent. So not really protesting at this point, this is rioting, looting, attacks, windows being smashed, and eventually I-277 was shut down because people had made their way to the highway. A number of times police told the crowd to disperse, and they ended up deploying tear gas and flashbangs in their best attempt to clear the scene.
We want to be able to walk the streets of our own neighborhoods that we pay good tax dollars for in peace, knowing that our children are going to come home safe, knowing that our husbands are going to come home safe, knowing that we're going to come home safe.
Certainly an emotional situation, so many emotions involved, and in the midst of that, arrests were made. Police arrested 44 people in total. Manslaughter charges have been filed against a Tulsa police officer in the shooting death of an unarmed man. Officer Betty Shelby was taken into custody this afternoon. Here's the video that shows when Terrence Crutcher was shot and killed. He is seen with his hands up. He's walking to his car. Shelby's lawyer, this is the officer's lawyer, says she shot him when he began to reach into the window of his vehicle. No weapons were found on Crutcher. Police did find the drug PCP in his SUV. We're live now here in Uptown Charlotte, where last night it was not nearly as quiet. There was a whole lot going on right here. You can see behind me, obviously, windows busted here. This is the Hilton Garden Inn at MLK near Caldwell, and they have boarded up virtually every window that you can see, not just because windows are broken, but because they want to prevent more damage in case people decide to take matters into their own hands tonight. And how about this? This is imagery of the NASCAR Hall of Fame and the Convention Center. Both of those venues were damaged last night as well due to rioters who decided to blow out some windows in those buildings as well. Yeah, this is a location that last night had a lot of issues. People running up in here and breaking in vending machines, breaking windows. We're hoping nothing like that happens tonight. Of course, you can depend on us for the latest on air and online. We'll see you tonight.
The news